Governing a modern community association with outdated rules feels exactly like this. The gears of administration lock up, creating massive friction that grinds essential initiatives to a halt. For the WHCC, the root of this friction is structural. The 2019 bylaws are anchored in a legacy state law known as RCW 64.38. That statute was written for an era when association management meant physical clipboards and mandatory in-person town halls. Today, communities function entirely differently. Residents rely on remote connectivity, asynchronous communication, and digital platforms to manage their daily lives. When a digital community is forced to operate under analog rules, the result is suppressed voter turnout and necessary board initiatives that stall out before they even reach a vote. Failing to update that underlying statutory framework leaves the association administratively paralyzed and opens the door to legal challenges over procedural missteps. The proposed Phase 1 bylaw amendment resolves this friction directly. As this timeline illustrates, this is a statutory migration from legacy RCW 64.38 to WUCIOA. WUCIOA provides the explicit digital framework required to legally operate. This expanded matrix illustrates its four main operational vectors. The amendment dismantles existing friction by upgrading four specific sections of the bylaws, 3.9 through 3.12. We are going to map exactly how each of these four amendments mathematically alters the board's operational capacity and legal standing. Boards and attorneys must understand this four-part mapping to execute a legally binding, remote-first community structure. Every corporate or association action faces an initial, foundational hurdle, legally assembling members to achieve a quorum. Under Section 3.12 of the 2019 bylaws, remote participation was limited to legacy conference telephone technology. The proposed amendment aligns with RCW 64.90.4453, upgrading this rule to permit any electronic conference where all participants have the ability to hear each other simultaneously. Looking at this balance scale representing Section 3.9, we see the paralyzing constraint of the old rules. To lift the heavy 34% quorum requirement, the association could only rely on members showing up in person or returning a proxy. It rarely balanced. The amendment adds a new weight to the scale, the absentee ballot. When absentee votes are factored in, the scale easily balances. This explicit inclusion of the absentee ballots to satisfy quorum requirements aligns directly with the statutory allowances of RCW 64.90.5401. By counting every returned absentee ballot toward the quorum, the mathematical probability of holding a valid, recognized meeting increases significantly. Together, Sections 3.12 and 3.9 solve the physical assembly problem, equipping the association with the legal infrastructure to operate in a fully remote environment. Once a quorum is established, Section 3.10, Manner of Acting, governs exactly how valid votes are cast. The heavily restrictive 2019 mechanism relied heavily on a majority vote from members who were physically present in the room. As this logic tree diagrams, the proposed amendment expands legal voting modalities to match modern habits, explicitly incorporating proxy, absentee, and electronic voting. But Section 3.10 contains a critical nuance, a mandatory statutory override for high-stakes decisions. Notice the padlocks appearing over these three specific actions: board elections, board removals, and amendments to the governing documents. Under RCW 64.90.455.9, legacy documents are legally superseded for these events. The state dictates that these three actions must be conducted by secret ballot. Operationally, boards must now implement digital verification software or double envelope paper systems to completely separate voter identity from the cast vote. Section 3.10 enforces these mandated secrecy protocols to ensure the integrity of every board election and amendment. But the single highest friction element in the 2019 bylaws is found in Section 3.11, action by members without a meeting. Any action taken outside a formal meeting faced this towering obstacle, a requirement for 100% unanimous written consent from all eligible voting members. In large associations, this threshold is a mathematical impossibility. A single unreturned document paralyzes community-wide initiatives. The core of the Phase 1 amendment completely eradicates this unanimous consent rule, clearing the path forward. Now, this procedural pipeline visualizes what WHUCIOA replaces it with, a multi-step statutory vote by ballot process outlined under RCW 64.90.4554. The first procedural safeguard in this pipeline is time. The association must guarantee a minimum 14-day notice to all members before an out-of-meeting vote concludes. Moving down the pipeline, the second safeguard is access parity. The law requires providing tangible, paper ballots to members opting out of electronic voting. In the final stage, an action passes if returned ballots meet the 34% quorum and hit the required approval percentage. This ensures strict ballot secrecy and verification standards are maintained, even when operating entirely outside of a formal meeting structure. Modifying Section 3.11 shifts out-of-meeting action from a mathematical impossibility to a highly viable everyday administrative tool for the board. When we evaluate the cumulative impact of the Phase 1 bylaw amendment, the operational shift is clear. This blueprint animation illustrates our core thesis. Moving from RCW 64.38 to RCW 64.90 is a structural operational overhaul that changes how power moves within the association, supported by these four modernized sections. Sections 3.9 and 3.12 eliminated physical assembly barriers, establishing remote operation as the standard practice. Section 3.10 guarantees the integrity of high-stakes votes through the state's mandatory secret ballot override. Section 3.11 replaced the unanimous consent barrier with a functional ballot process, allowing the board to act on community initiatives asynchronously. These expanded operational capabilities are safely contained by strict procedural safeguards designed entirely to protect member rights. By adopting this amendment, the community sheds its administrative paralysis and transitions to a legally robust, electronic-first governance model capable of actual democratic participation.